Okay. Hello, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. At the moment, this is the beginning of the 36th of hopefully many episodes of Bard Advice, a D&D slash TTRPG slash life podcast, where I, Charles, Chaz, Yazik, the DM, the Bard, however you may know me, do my best to answer any of those questions that you might ask. I hope everybody's doing fantastic. It's good to see all of the regulars coming in the door. At the top of the episode, we do like to remind people to please send your emails for questions, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques to bardadvice@gmail.com. It also looks like bardadvice. Please keep sending those questions in. Keeps the show going, keeps the content full with stuff to talk about. And as I had mentioned on a previous episode, I will in the near future be having guests on. So if you've got a question that you want to ask Lance or Waylon or Sarah, send it over so that I have it, so that it's easier for me to prep those. Please and thank you. Also, if you want to get any merch, you can do so at manshorts.com. I've got some good news on the dice front. While I don't have any specific dates or images or anything, the wheels on that bus are turning in a good direction. So that's good news. And also, if you'd like to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, you can do so directly via PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo, all of which are Yazik, Yahzick. I made really good progress on the album this week. I've been making good progress on it in general. So please do all of those things. We also, at the top of the episode, like to thank all of our members, our patrons, super chatters, and thank everyone for and remind everyone to please like, comment, subscribe, share, and rate the podcast on your respective platforms, because those things are very helpful for the algorithm. Thank you, everyone, for all of your support. Continued. Let's move forward into episode 36. At the top of the episode, before we get into any kind of art corner, I would just like to address it just because it's incredibly bizarre that last week's episode was named Bray Wyatt. And unfortunately, as of yesterday, I believe, Bray Wyatt passed away. We also lost another wrestling legend this week in Terry Funk, which was a big enough blow if you're any kind of fan of wrestling. But then also to lose Bray Wyatt suddenly, very, very tragic, and also very strange that I was just talking about him. So would like to just take a moment, maybe a brief moment of silence for those two. It's really sad. They were both really, really great entertainers, and it's a shame. Certainly for Bray Wyatt. Obviously, Terry is a big loss too, and my best to his family and all of the people that are in the wrestling sphere in that world. I talked to Jay about it, who plays Lance on the channel. He's obviously a huge mark, and he knew about it, of course, before anybody I knew. And I just was mentioning to him how crazy that is, because I was just talking about him. So, best to his family, and hope that the community comes together and can move forward and honor them. So, moving forward with some more positive things. So, Art Corner this week, I just wanted to briefly promote and talk about this show that I've been watching on HBO, or I guess it's called Max now. Winning Time, which is the story of the rise of the Lakers dynasty. And it is so good. I mean, masterclass in acting all the way around. You can see Adrian Brody's in there. John C. Reilly is one of the main leads, obviously, is playing Jerry Buss. Also, just wanted to give some credit to Gabby Hoffman and Jason Segel, because they're not on that main marketing piece, but they're two of my favorite characters in the show. If you have it and have access to Max, I would recommend watching it, because it's really, really good. And we're in the midst of the second season of it, and it's, you know, I'm sure that there's some creative license with things that were said and done, but for the most part, it seems to be historically accurate. I'm sure that people will have their things to say about it, particularly the real people. But I've really enjoyed it. I think it's a really cool piece of basketball history and one of the cooler dynasties to see, because you know remember, you're not just watching the Lakers. You get to see a lot of stuff about the Celtics. Last week's episode was a lot about Larry Bird, so that was pretty cool. And the acting, I just cannot praise enough between all of those people, just absolutely nailing their parts in such a way that it's very believable. So just a little art corner recommendation there, and also a quick note too about Baldur's Gate 3. So I do at some point plan on streaming that in the future. I don't know what it's going to look like. Oh, wow. Thank you very much. No Joe Only Zool. Thank you for the $5 donation. That's a cool name too. And for the cool sticker. It's going well. Baldur's Gate 3 it's just so fun. And I cannot imagine that won't just become everything that Hasbro puts their money into. Or Wizards, right? Like, I don't know. I think that's what D&D is going to look like for the next 10 years. Just found your content this week. Oh, well, thank you. I hope you're enjoying it. There's a lot to watch. We got a lot of stuff. Lots of videos and also some campaigns, and I've got rap music and stuff. Just started a new job 2 weeks ago, but you've been dying to play BG3. It's insane. It's so good. And you know the thing I like about it the most? I'll just gush a little bit about Baldur's Gate 3 because I finally started playing. By the way, River, I'm aware that you've sent me a bunch of messages that I haven't yet responded to. I'm really sorry for that. I've been wicked busy this week. I will definitely get to it. Sorry, I hope that you don't feel like I ignored you purposely. The Baldur's Gate 3, the thing that I like about it the most is that so much of the story is organic, and I'll give you an example. So I was playing with my friends Cody and Ryan, and Ryan is a paladin in our party, and in the middle of some sort of a skirmish we were having, he broke his oath, and without giving too much of a spoiler away, well, I don't know. The game's been out for a while at this point. I said to him, you know, don't trip, because I'm sure that they thought about this and they've worked in some sort of an oathbreaker path in the game. Not only is there an oathbreaker path, but when you get back to your camp, there's just a dude waiting there who's an oath-broken paladin that's like, what's up, dude? So I heard you broke your oath. You want me to show you what you can do with that? It's just so good. And so for me at that point, it was like, this is fantastic, because not only do we have plot unraveling and unfolding in the game as to like the actual plot of the story, but just the nature of playing it, like in D&D, you create your own stories. And so now, in addition to all of the quest stuff that we're doing and things we're trying to do about upgrading our characters and such, our paladin broke his oath. So now we've got to like grind a little bit, figure out how to get some gold to get his oath back. And it's just so good. It's just, and it very much feels like a labor of love. It very much feels like they thought of everything. And the funnier thing I've seen this week is that apparently a barrelmancer is one of the more popular classes, which is, I guess, to say somebody who just blows things up with barrels, because I don't know if anybody's done that a lot in Baldur's Gate 3, but they are pretty OP. The guy who lets you respect is also unfathomably based. Currently running Descent into Avernus. I have a player that's playing it. Would that be campaign spoiling central? I'm not sure. BG3 takes place shortly after. Oh, okay, cool. Well, that's even better. Barrelmancy has been a thing in Lyrian games since Divinity. That makes sense. Well, the explosions are absolutely crazy. Some of the stuff I've seen with people just like setting... The one that I saw in particular, I think this dude set off 70 barrels. I think he laid 70 barrels, and then he ignited it. And it was just... It just takes over the whole screen. That's really crazy. There was a boss I killed with 20 barrels of gunpowder in one hit. Believe it or not, it was stronger in Divinity. Yikes. That is wacky. But yeah, I mean, I can't recommend that game enough. I've been having a real fun blast with it. By the way, the character I'm running in that party is a Dragonborn fighter. And woo-wee, it's fun. I love the superiority dice thing is really cool. Especially with, like, riposte. That's pretty sweet. Speaking of barrels exploding, let off fireworks, because I finally made a live stream. Oh, Egrachil, yeah! Oh, man, what a cool name. That's too cool of a name to be missing streams. Have you seen the 4 Halfling Barbarians vid of BG3? I have not, but I will make myself a note to look it up. 4 Halfling Barbarians. I'm sure that's all I'll need to search. Okay, so let's get into some questions. What, are we just going to talk all night? We're going to do any questions here on this Bardadvice show? Let's get into it. I've got a list of names here. We've got 6 questions and a follow-up, so we probably should get going. The first one is from Chris, as you might expect. And Chris asks, hey there, Chaz. Got another question for you. Regarding Mage Hand, the description states that it can be used to open an unlocked door. But what about a gate? Theoretically, it's a door, just not in the traditional sense. Thank you in advance, and keep doing what you do. The additions and pod are bright spots in my week. Thank you, Chris. So, for me, Mage Hand has always been about... Well, for me, a Mage Hand has always operated like a regular hand. So, the restrictions in terms of what it can do are really only in the spell description as to its duration, and in the spell description as to the weight limit for Mage Hand, right? Because it's 5 pounds. So you can't, like, pick up a boat. but if the latch of a gate is 5 pounds, or the lever, or the knob, or whatever it is, then you can do it. So the short answer is yes. And you pointing out that a gate is just a door reinvigorated the doors and wheels question that I'd been thinking about a couple of weeks ago. And, you know, every night at 3:15 in the morning, I think, are there more doors or wheels? How much does a kobold weigh? That depends. Is there a 5-pound kobold? The Mage Hand restriction is for me, it's about weight and it's about duration, and that's it. I don't care what you're opening. And also, as I mentioned earlier, like, I think that a Mage Hand is just a hand. So, like, if your hand can do it, then the Mage Hand can do it. Door's a door except when a door is ajar. That's true. Mage Hand actually has a lot of fun uses. If you cast Reduce, yeah, that's true. I've seen that before, and that's totally a move. You know, if you cast Reduce on a creature and it brings it down to 5 pounds or less, you could. That's what. Isn't that a thing about, like, permanent, like, levitation for wizards, right? Because essentially you just you cast Reduce on yourself. So you play as, like, a kobold or something real small, and then you cast Reduce on yourself, and then you Mage Hand yourself, and you just carry yourself around all the time. I mean, you could do that. If you could do that, you could definitely open a gate. I think that's fair. Probably more wheels, all those random wheels and play sets. Yeah. What's funny to me about the wheel and door thing is that people seem to be, if they are confident in whatever their choice is, they're very confident. Like, it's never like, I think doors edges out wheels. It's always like, wheels, no question. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. It's been kind of bugging me because gears are wheels, right? Mustang has invisible Mage Hand. Oh, sweet. That'd be Mustang Peppercorn, of course. I don't care about the 5-pound rule exactly. I think the point of it is just to prevent abuse, like you were saying. We aren't throwing around boats or castles. Yeah, for sure. I think that that's the main thing. As long as you're not... There's just kind of like a general rule when it comes to any of that stuff, where it's just like... You'll know if somebody, I think, is clearly trying to abuse it. And... sometimes people will want to split hairs and be like, well, actually, it doesn't say anything in the Mage Hand description about a gate. But it's like, okay, but we're talking about restrictions here, right? Like, obviously, the description of something can't account for everything you could do with it. It really can only account for what you can't do with it. Thus, the limitations of 5 pounds and the duration of the spell. So, is Mage Hand a cantrip, by the way? Or is it it's got to be at least a level 1 spell, yeah? I guess some people get it as a cantrip. Gears are wheels unless they are gears of war. Then they are cogs. The guys I played with used ninjas and super spies with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's all I know. The handle on the gate doesn't weigh much. Yeah, it doesn't weigh very much at all. And it is a cantrip. Interesting. Yeah, so there's no way that you couldn't just use that all the time to carry yourself around if you cast Reduce on yourself. Man, everything's a cantrip these days. You know, back in my day, that cost you a couple of spell slots. I'm going to feel stupid if Mage Hand is a cantrip in 3.5. Somebody fact check that for me. What if you wanted to anime it up and have an antagonist that could, like, lift a castle in its entirety? Oh, like Anos Voldegod? That sounds like that guy. What's the name of that anime? Can't remember. Demon King? Demon King Academy? Used to not be able to lift magic items with Mage Hand in 3.5 Pathfinder, which really limited it. Oh, that's right. That's right. You couldn't even carry stuff with it in 3.5. Probably one of the reasons I didn't like mages that much. So you could, like, flip a switch or unlock a door, but you couldn't pick something up. Which seems nuts, right? Doesn't that defeat the purpose? Is a sphere or a ball a wheel? I mean, theoretically. I mean, a wheel wouldn't be a ball. A ball wouldn't be a wheel if you tried to, like, slam it onto the side of a car where a tire goes. Well, I don't know. I guess maybe. But it would definitely be a wheel if you, like, laid down a piece of plywood on top of it. So, just ran through the dark tournament of Yu Yu Hakusho, and Toguro has my brain meats tingling. I think the spell Thief Mage Hand is really cool. I don't remember that one. Late to the party. Happy Friday. Hey, Daryl. Welcome. Welcome to the party. Mage Hand was a cantrip in 3E. Well, yeah, but I mean, if you couldn't pick anything up, then therein lies that limitation. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question, Chris. It's a yes for me. Gates or doors. And anything that your Mage Hand can do with a door, it can do with a gate. The next question, according to the listo names, is from Annie. And this kind of stuff has been coming up frequently, and let's talk about it. Annie asks, recently, a federal judge ruled that AI art absent of human involvement is not eligible for copyright protection. I did see that. What are your opinions on this decision, and what impact do you think this ruling will have in the future? Many thanks for all the comedy and music. Well, thank you for the question, Annie. So this is kind of a complicated one. I don't know if anybody else saw that this week, but this is a big deal. And while I don't think it's going to be the final answer for anything, because we'll have many more court cases to come, I think it's going to set an important precedent moving forward with how AI art integrates into the world of regular art. So, without being able to claim copyright on anything, it's essentially the Wild West when it comes to commercial work using and with AI art. And, you know, last week, I don't know if it was last week or maybe the week before, we talked about I guess it was last week, this issue with Wizards releasing Big B's Tome of the Giants or whatever, and it having AI art in it. And then Wizards, you know, corporate suits, man, acting like they're like, whoa, we're hearing about this for the first time. What happened? Is just like so stupid. But I think that it was important that the artist talked about the work that they themselves put into it. Here's the thing. It's one of the things that's always bothered me about these arguments about, like, oh, well, you know, if LeBron James wanted to just go dominate in the WNBA, he could just put on a wig and go do that. And it's like, yeah, but he wouldn't do that because LeBron James is a competitor. Similarly with art, I've seen a lot of people make this argument over the last couple of months, the last year really, that's like, oh man, well now anybody can do it. And it's like, yeah, but like any real artist isn't just like make this and then it makes it and then selling that as their own. Anybody doing that is a charlatan. Most artists, like myself, and I'm not even like somebody that's really into the art, most artists are using it as a tool in conjunction with stuff that they're already doing. And so for me, I think that's fine, because this idea of like, oh, well, if you're pulling stuff from different mediums to create this new thing, isn't that like plagiarizing the other? And it's like, no, that isn't any different than an artist taking inspiration from something else. Like, wouldn't that be ridiculous if you could quantify like how much of someone else's work inspired you? And we'll probably have to make those calls when it comes to actual images, right? Or films or videos or anything, because it's like those people are going to need to be, they're going to need to be compensated properly. So the problem, I think, is not so much, you know, oh, people can make AI art. I think the real problem is that, yes, now these corporations, like these film production houses, can just say, ah, well, we don't need you anymore. But the silver lining to that non-artists don't realize, by the way, because it's always somebody that like doesn't do anything that's like, oh, we gotta stand, and it's like, oh, what do you do? What is it that you make? What is your weekly content that you produce? Oh, nothing. You don't do anything. You're just complaining about art, because it's like people complaining about the camera when the camera was created, and they're like, oh, nobody's gonna paint pictures anymore, guys. We got cameras. Plenty of people paint pictures. I'm getting so angry, I'm turning into Porky Pig. The artist is always going to be the artist. The medium is only a restriction for them. So the better and more effective that the medium can be, the better it's going to be. And I think the idea that an AI-generated image cannot be copyrighted is a good thing. Because are we really going to allow these companies to say, oh, cool, well, there's only a finite number of images, so I'm just going to produce all of the images and then copyright all of them, and then I own them all, and now I own everything. And I just saw a recent TikTok about these guys that apparently created an algorithm that supposedly created every melody that could possibly exist. And it's like 487 billion melodies or something. And then they've put those into the public domain. So I don't know how that stuff's going to work, but I've been ranting for a minute. Let's see what chat is saying. Can we really call AI art though? Where's the artifice with AI art? It's just drawing from tons of data sets of images it's already seen. Unless a person puts work into it, how is it art? Well, every artist that's working is drawing from tons of data sets of images, right? Like, we're just computers, us people. If a person was born and you know, theoretically you kept them alive with sustenance, but you never talked to them or like brought them into society. This is the allegory of the cave. They wouldn't know anything about what's going on at all. They would have no opinion on like politics or religion or anything. They would have no frame of reference for anything. The only reason that any of us know anything at all is that we're constantly fed data our entire lives. So when I go to create a rap song, I'm drawing mental data from Eminem and Dr. Dre and people like the Wu-Tang Clan and like my musical inspirations. When I write a song on the guitar, I'm mentally drawing from places like people like Jack Johnson. And I might even make something that sounds kind of similar, which is why we have copyright law conversations in the first place when it comes to music. In the grand scheme of the universe, there is no art. For you to make art, you have to hold up a mirror to reality, and there isn't a mirror big enough to hold up to the universe. Yo, that's existential. The craziest thing I've heard coming from the possible use of AI is that they wanted to do with film extras. That's not going to happen with just extras, I hate to tell you. That's going to happen with everybody. They're just going to start licensing people's faces. It's not going to be, it's a non-issue, and I don't think that SAG-AFTRA realizes that. I don't think that they realize that Hollywood is like, you know, they went back to the table or whatever, and Hollywood was like, yeah, this is what we'll do. And SAG-AFTRA's like, well, surely, and it's like, no. You know, I'm certainly not siding with these executives, but that's what it is. Like, that must mean that they're comfortable enough in their model to produce these things. Maybe not tomorrow, but certainly within the next 18 to 36 months. They're going to be able to just make everything with AI. And at that point, it's just a matter of compensating people for their likeness, compensating people for their ideas. How much music does not have input from other work? Yeah, exactly. All music does. No more actors. I don't know that it will be no more actors in the strictest sense, because here's what I was going to say earlier, and I think I might have gotten off course a little bit because I tend to do that and derail. The silver lining in this is that, you know, real art, organic art the demand for that is going to go through the roof, because all of these production houses, all of these streaming services like Peacock and HBO, not immediately, but within the decade, most of, if not all of their content is just going to be AI generated. And they're going to run the numbers like they do at the stock market on Wall Street. And it's going to be like, okay, well, we did the numbers and this is what people want to see. They want to see The Rock and Kevin Hart in a movie about them being spies in an underwater war. And then they're going to make that thing. That's going to be all of it. So the only real, quote unquote, organic or real art is going to be from the underground artists, from the people who are doing it anyway. And you know how I know I'm going to still be doing it? Because I'm doing it now. That's the thing too. People are like, oh, well, people are just going to not have incentive to make art. It's like, what incentive did you think I had in the first place? What do you think? I'm a millionaire? Listen, I make art because I'm good at it and because I like doing it. The fact that I'm able to earn a living from it is a really great bonus. But like, I'm going to make stuff whether people are seeing it or not, whether I'm making money on it or not, because I always have. They license people's likenesses all the time for video games. It's all sort of the whole the compensating college football players in the NCAA games. Yeah, I remember that, Pirate. I do usually railroad. I guess that's true, Kirk. How many inspirational generations back should be compensated? That's true. Yeah, how far back does it go? Not just a really... How do we know that I'm just not an AI? Oh, man. If I'm an AI, it's already too late. If an AI was able to create something as delirious as me, then we're too far gone anyway. We're past the event horizon. Watch the hell out of that movie. The Rock and Kevin Hart fighting underwater, being underwater spies. I probably would do really well, honestly. So, wow, that was a lot. Kind of an explosion. But those are kind of my feelings on it. You know, like, I think that obviously you're going to have people that are like, I made this AI art image and then I sold it. And it's like, cool. But I mean, that isn't any different than people who are already doing that kind of stuff now. I'm sure there's people right now that aren't even using AI art, and they're just downloading and reselling images that aren't theirs. Like, that's going to be unavoidable. I think that because everyone can do it is going to be a good thing, because only the good stuff will rise to the top. And the commercial stuff will be goofy like it always is, because it has to appease everybody. And so those things are always a little goofy. But I think that the underground stuff will be as good as it always has been, if not better, moving forward. For me as an artist, I'm inspired to do more. When I see things like, oh, did you see AI can rap now? It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, now I feel challenged to do better than that. And once everybody starts getting used to this, like, really obvious AI produced stuff, they'll start craving things like live performance. Things like these underground YouTube artists that only have a couple thousand subscribers. Like, that's already happening, by the way. That's already happened in the hip hop world. Like, being put on in the hip hop world has now just become a thing where it's like, I mean, if you get viral from something on SoundCloud or TikTok or something, that's it. You got a whole career now. So the gatekeepers are gone. I think this is a good thing. Central Intelligence 2. Oh, man, it probably was already a movie, I guess. Can you say merch pirates? Everybody's a merch pirate at some point. John Henry versus the railroad machine, no doubt. I mean, it's happened throughout history. This isn't any different. And I think we're going to be fine. But let's keep moving because we've got other questions. And that one took a lot out of me. So this next question, according to the names, is from Duncan. And it's more D&D related. So Duncan asks, "Hi Chaz, it's Duncan here. Played a D&D board game with my son David recently. He is 7. It was his first adventure into roleplay stuff with me, and he really enjoyed it. I'm wondering what would be good books and other games that might be suitable for him. Also, any tips for DMing a youngling?" Sorry, my name isn't Chris. So I'll be fair to Duncan. That was not exactly how the email was worded. I added that little bit in about, "Sorry, my name isn't Chris." Although he did say that, it was later in the email, and I thought it was just too funny to not include, because just how hilarious of a thing to say. So your question is about you and playing D&D with your son. I'm happy to hear that. That's really cool that he enjoyed it. Other good books and other games that might be suitable for him, just in general. So, well, oh, wow, choose your own adventure books. Man, that's a good recommendation from chat right away. I remember those things. You know, what I read a lot of, too, when I was a kid was Goosebumps. Those are fun. And probably a cool thing for coming up with content for D&D. Let's see. Book suggestion from chat, the Crestomancy series by Diana Wynne Jones. And Chris says Munchkin, which is what I was going to say. That was the first thing that I was going to say. And I'm not sure, Duncan, if you heard a few episodes ago, we recommended that for our friend of the pod, Ruby, and her husband, Ron, to try. It's a really good game. I never got super into it, but it's basically just like an easier, more tactile version of D&D. It's like if D&D were cards, if D&D was a card game, Munchkin. Learned at my local game shop that they're making new CYOA books. What is that? What is that? Oh, choose your own adventure. Duh. Yeah, you know, we've talked about doing, and maybe maybe we could do that for like Halloween this year. We've talked about doing a choose your own adventure episode before of the D&D show, where, you know, it gets to a breaking place where you can either choose, you can either decide to go with Lance Whalen or Sarah's decision, and then it branches off into several different videos so that you can kind of go back and watch it throughout the different endings and stuff. But it's just a matter of how I would structure that and get it all together. Mice and Mystics board game. Read The Hobbit together. That's actually a fantastic recommendation. You know, my dad got me into, well, to be fair, we read The Hobbit in school in 7th grade. But then my dad was the one that pushed me into The Lord of the Rings. And then we got to see all of the movies together in theaters, which was great. So Lord of the Rings is always an awesome start. Although I got to be honest, it's a lot. It's really dense. Isn't there stuff that's a little bit easier than that? Like that Percy Jackson guy? Wasn't the Groundhog Day kind of the Choose Your Own Adventure? Well, yeah, kind of. But this would actually be multiple videos. The 1, 2, 3s of D&D. By Ivan Van Norman. Depends on the attention span of the child, but for me, old school RPGs were fantastic. It was flashy enough to keep my attention, but I had to read them like books. Yeah, I was also going to recommend like Terry Pratchett. I was also going to recommend, well, now I've drawn a blank. I put it down in my notes, so maybe I can reference that. Doing a homebrew one-shot, of course. That's a big recommendation I would have, especially if you have experience already yourself, because that'd be a really good, easy way for you to just, like, kick it with him for a couple hours and playing, you as the DM, him as the player. And if you do that, you might consider running a DMPC just alongside him. But at a bare minimum, even if it's not, like, the best time that you could have had playing that interaction will open up the whole world of D&D for him. And so when he plays it, he'll be able to see like, okay, this is what's going on. And then once he has that reference, you can plug that into any TTRPG that exists. Dragons of Autumn Twilight. 1, 2, 3s might be too young. Yeah, maybe like something YA. You know, one of my favorite YA series was the Star Wars Jedi Apprentice series. I've talked about that. That's a really good series of books. Recommend ElfQuest. They're good fantasy books and comics. One of my first miniature purchase was a box set from the main ElfQuest characters. Don't worry about age level, just what they like. Yeah, that's true. I was going to say that as well. I was going to just note, you know, you're his dad. You know him probably better than anybody. So just kind of try and cater it to him in that way the best you can. Like if it's, use what you know about him to guide your decision making in what you want to do. That's to say, just because there's pretty much everything. You know, if he says to you like, oh man, it'd be really cool if there was like a Wild West one, like a Wild West D&D, there's a bunch of them. So maybe just ask him like what he thinks, what he might want to do. But I'd say that Munchkin is real easy and something that's fun that y'all can play together, 2 players, easy peasy. There's expansions for it. And then a one-shot with D&D, or, you know, whether it's 5e or if you do a one-shot with a similar TTRPG, just that one, I think, will really open the wall for him learning about D&D. The Redwall series, yeah, you know, I never really read much of it myself, but Rigsby, the gentleman who plays Waylon on the channel, is a huge Redwall fan. And I got to be honest, the concept of it's really cool. I did read, I think, a few of those books, but not to the degree that he did. The Dungeon Academy books. There's also the Dragonlance books. Animorphs is fun. Goosebumps came to mind. Go to the library. Oh, that's a really great call, Ron. Yeah, go to the library. Approach your local librarian. They'll know. Especially lately, right? Because D&D's had a big uptick in the last couple of years. I'm sure the librarian will be happy to guide you to their section on TTRPG stuff. Dragonlance was good, but not too little kid level. Yeah, that's a good point. Having fun is hard when you've got a library. Having fun is hard when you've got a library card. Having fun isn't hard. Much cheaper than game shops. Yeah, no doubt. The Dungeon Academy books are for ages 6 to 10. Oh, cool. So yeah, you might check those out as well, the Dungeon Academy books. I think that any of those will probably address your needs. So hopefully that answers your question, Duncan. And thank you for all the kind words. You know, you sent a bit of an elaborate email, and that's okay, because I'm that way myself. I'm an over-explainer. You should see some of my emails and text messages. It's really not attractive. It's just walls of text. So you're good, by the way. I'm not worried about it at all. It was a great email. I enjoyed reading it. And hopefully that answers your question. And nice to have a fan from down in the New Zealand area. New Zealand/Australia area. Down under, as they say. Brevity's not my strong suit. Yeah, for sure. Brevity's my dump stat. How about that? All right. So thank you for the question, Duncan. Let's move on to another one because we've got some more to get through, and we're already 40 minutes in. How did this happen? What is going on? Are we on a different time zone or something? This fourth question is from Marissa. Marissa asks, when you aren't making content, what kind of content do you prefer to consume? Well, thank you for the question. So at the top of the episode, we talked about Winning Time, which is one of the shows that I'm currently watching. But there's a bunch of stuff that I watch. My wife and I really like to watch anything reality, anything like reality competition or drama. If there's drama, we're there. So any kind of like these ultimatum shows or Love Island or RuPaul's Drag Race. My wife also, not as often lately, but in the past, like The Real Housewives, anything where there's a lot of drama, it's just, I don't know, it's like brain candy. I love that kind of stuff. But then obviously like sincere shows that we watch, like Winning Time, is one of the ones that we're watching. I also like Reservation Dogs a lot. That's a really good show. If you get the opportunity to check that out, it's on Hulu. It's co-produced by Taika Waititi, and it's about these kids on the reservation, natives. And it is so good. It's just like a masterclass in storytelling, I think, from like a series perspective, because they're short episodes. They're like, 20, 25-minute episodes, but they're heavy and well written, and the characters are good, and they're into season 3 of that, so that's a really good show. I made some other notes. I consume a lot of podcasts. I've talked about before, I think, like some of the big ones I listen to at least every week are like Dudesy, Tiger Belly, Bad Friends, and I'm also a sports fan, so I kind of keep my ear to the ground a little bit about that. Like I'm a bigger basketball fan than a football fan, but I'm also a football fan. I grew up in the South. I'm a huge football fan. My mom was a huge football fan, and then I was a kid when the Jags expanded, so I've got a little bit of love for the home team there, a lot of bit of love. And TikTok. I think that's the list. So, reality competition television shows, dramas, podcasts, sports, TikTok. 90 Day Fiancé. Oh, yeah. Most definitely. Does that surprise you, Mike, that I like reality? You know what it is? There's a lot going on in my head all the time, and reality very much allows you to just kind of check out. At least me. It's meditative. It's just like, oh, well, I don't really have to like worry about anything. I could just like focus on what this craziness is. It isn't too much different than wrestling, right? Wrestling's reality television. Letterkenny is really good. I don't know that I've seen all of it, but Letterkenny's good. And obviously stuff like Always Sunny. Forged in Fire, that is a cool show. You know what other show my wife and I really like is The Cake Show. Have you ever seen the Is It Cake? It's on Netflix. That's always fun. Or any of the baking shows are cool. Gordon Ramsay, Master Chef, Iron Chef. I show up for it. It's real easy to just kind of plug in and like, oh, my focus is here now. I don't have to worry about what's going on in my life because I can worry about Kelly from Nebraska and her shepherd's pie. Reality TV is basically junk food for the brain. Yeah, see, River gets it. Playing Baldur's Gate while watching this. Oh, boy. I hope you're having fun. What'd you run? What's your class and race? I'm a Dragonborn fighter in one of them. British Bake Off, yeah, great British baking show. Winning Time is on Max. It used to be HBO. It's the show of or rather, it's the story of the LA Lakers. The Masked Singer, don't really like much reality TV. Now, it's funny you say that, Pirate, about the laziness on some of the producers, because I hear where you're coming from, but I would argue that depending on the show you're talking about, some of these producers are nutso. Like the most recent episode, or rather the most recent season of Love Island, this is a huge thing that happened. I've been watching the show essentially since it came out a couple years after the first season. I got into it. On the newest one, the 10th season of the UK, and I have to catch up with US now because they're going to do the Love Island games in November, and it's going to include cast members from all of the ones, so I have to watch the US for context. But I am up to date on the UK one in the 10th season, and in the 10th season, they are still doing things that are surprising. And not only are they doing things that are surprising, but, okay, so I'll try to give you like a Reader's Digest version. On Love Island, they have this thing in the middle of it called Casa Amor. So on Love Island, you just have these, like, it's just a bunch of like hot people in their 20s, and they all match up, boys and girls in their couples, right? And weekly, they repick each other, and that's the reality show. In the middle of that competition, they have this thing called Casa Amor, where they actually physically separate the couples. So the boys go over to this new place and the girls stay in this place, and all the boys over here go to meet new girls, and all these girls here come to meet all these new boys. The reason I'm bringing all of that up is that on the last 2 seasons, the new people for which the people are matched with in the new places when they do the Casa Amor thing, they have gotten so incredibly specific about being able to pick somebody that is just like their other person, right? So like, say for example, you have a couple and it's like Fred and Susie, right? And then they get split into Casa Amor. The girl that's waiting for Fred in Casa Amor is like a different version of Susie. And the guy that's waiting for Susie is like a different version of Fred. They've gotten so good at that. It's to the point where when they go through the new people, you're like, oh, that's supposed to be this guy. And that's supposed to be this girl. It's really nuts. I don't know. I watch too much reality TV, I guess. But, okay. Hopefully that's an answer, Marissa. So we've got 2 more questions and a follow-up. And then if we have some time, we'll do some chat. But we've been burning through this. This one's from Chris. Another Chris. And Chris asks, what's your favorite holiday? Halloween, and it's not close. But I do like Christmas certainly a lot more than I used to. I did go through a period, I think, where I had a real disliking for Christmas. But in the last decade or so, particularly in the last couple years, I've really come to enjoy the process of like getting gifts and just like, I don't know, the songs and bacon stuff is always fun. Just like the holidays in general, I guess, is nice. Being around family and not having to work so much. Oh man, Halloween is, the chat's full of Halloween as well, yeah. I mean, it's okay, so I put St. Patrick's Day, but I mean, is St. Patrick's Day really even fun if you're not drinking? Follow-up question, is any holiday really fun if you're not drinking? Besides Halloween or Christmas, the ones I named, I can't think of any. November for Thanksgiving, yeah, Thanksgiving's good because it's just food-based, but like, I don't know, man. Most holidays is just like an excuse to drink. And any memory that I have, any kind of like good memory of holidays with the ones that are like St. Patrick's Day or like Arbor Day or whatever, is just getting drunk. Friday the 13th. Remember the 5th of November, no doubt. Gunpowder, treason, and plot. Used to be Christmas for me, but I don't know if I like that holiday, like any holiday anymore. Yeah, you know, I feel like post-COVID, by the way, there's been a real, like, holidays have felt real lackluster the last couple years. And on my own part as well, but I just noticed, like, in the neighborhood and just around me, like, less people put up lights every year, less people put up decorations. Now, to be fair, part of that is just money and the struggle being real with, you know, you got to pay the bills. And in particular, in this state, you got to pay your property taxes. Am I right? So there's not a lot, I think, of extra for people to be spending on stuff like decorating, but make them fun. Nothing like a jovial old fat bald guy to spice up the day. Oh, yeah. We're great. We're like our own version of Ken dolls. Grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, so you never got to do that kind of thing when I was young into my teens. I hit 30 and caught the Christmas decorating bug. Oh, cool. Well, sorry that you didn't get to experience it as a child, but it's good to hear that you're enjoying it now. There's a reason why gunpowder and treason should never be forgot. I don't have the gene to absorb alcohol, so it literally poisons me. Whoa. Well, hey, listen, that's not that bad of a thing. I had a big problem with drinking, and thankfully I was able to stop it, and I don't do it now. But it's not for everybody. And it's not, by the way, the first thing I would recommend if you were looking for have a good time. That would be cannabis. Anyway, let's move on to the next and last question, which is from Scapelli, and also includes what he denoted as an unnecessary story, but I believe there is no such thing, particularly on this show. But let's talk about it. Scapelli says, what have been your favorite or most impactful character design themes, bans, or requirements as either a player or DM, i.e. same/different race, same/different faith, same/different family, same different faction, no or only spellcasters, alignment restrictions, or age and status? My favorite was a group of siblings in a World of Darkness campaign. It baked in backstory for the character relationships, and the age relationship inherently created dynamic on its own. It was a relatively short campaign, lots of character death, The family was vampirized by the Sabbat, an anarchist faction of vampiric society, but had no other vampires to teach them what that meant or what abilities or banes went along with that. Who among your siblings would be the one to find out that sunlight hurts? That's super cool stuff. Also, I don't think an unnecessary story. You could argue a necessary story. So you asked what my favorite kind of thematic bands requirements as a player, DM, etc. So, as a player, I've always been a fan of same faction family. So not necessarily related, but some of the more fun campaigns I've ever run were stuff like the Dark Pirate campaign, which I think I've talked about the last few episodes, my half-orc dragon shaman that wielded a hammer that was too big. That campaign was like a dark pirate campaign. So the only thing that we all really had in common was that we were part of this, anti-government movement or, anti-king movement, pirate behavior. And I think that for a DM, the more fun things would be doing like no or only spellcasters. Dude, no spellcasters. I'd actually probably rather do only spellcasters than no spellcasters as a DM. Just because I feel like a melee fighter could do more damage and interrupt a group of mages more effectively, probably, than a single mage could disrupt a group of fighters and barbarians. Yeah, I don't know. It's all relative. And also, like, doing different alignments or races is cool, and faiths and stuff, because it can create moments for PvP stuff, even if it's not like full-on players fighting amongst each other, like orcs and elves. By the way, one of the funnier and cooler moments of Lord of the Rings, since we brought up Lord of the Rings earlier, was the relationship between, what are their names? Come on. Legolas and Gimli. Yeah? It's like you see that in One Piece, too, a lot with, like, Luffy and Zoro. Well, actually, Zoro and Sanji would be a better example. But just kind of like that competitive... Maybe that's not a great example, because, I mean, like, if an orc disliked an elf, it would be way more deeper than that. But you know what I mean. Like, anything that kind of creates the opportunity for plot to develop on its own inherently, like you mentioned about, like, the age thing with the vampires. Like, well, if they don't know what's going on, then they don't know what's going on. Who's going to figure it out? Similarly, with doing, like, different races or faiths or alignments, it can lend itself to there being problems. If you've got somebody that's running lawful good or even just chaotic good versus somebody who's running maybe chaotic neutral or like lawful evil or something, not only is that going to put more of an onus on the party for explaining why that exists in the first place, but it's also going to be a great exercise, I think, in RP for them as they move forward. Friendly competition. 2 of my players are a Drow and an Eladrin, which has been awesome to watch them RP. Oh, I bet. Legolas and Gimli. Isn't that how you say it? How about only spellcasters, but who fight like fighters? Oh, that would be a nightmare. Imagine if you were like a gnome. If you were a gnome wizard, but you weren't allowed to cast. You just had to use like your dagger. Good luck. I hope your AC doesn't get you killed, or lack thereof. Kobold and gnome. Swords bard. But yeah, that's for me. As the player, I like being from the same like faction, like all having the same kind of incentive to be there. And then as the DM, I like being able to split things up between things that are going to create issues. Although I do like the idea of the no or only spellcasters and what each of those would look like. I meant to do an all dwarves campaign where they leave the mountain after 500 years and find a human and elf controlled world. That would be really cool. That actually sounds like it would work really well as like an anime. Talk about allegory of the cave. There's just these dwarves that have been living in the mountains for 500 years, and then one day they're like, you know what? Let's go out there and see what's going on. And they go out there, and it's just been completely overrun by humans and elves. That'd be funny. Okay, so I think that answers the question, Scapelli. Thank you for the question. This is a cool one. And don't consider your story unnecessary. Feel free, everybody, by the way, to send your unnecessary stories to bardadvice@gmail.com. All right, and then we've got a follow-up here that I just wanted to touch on before we chat a little bit, because we're already approaching time to get out of here, unbelievably. But the follow-up this week is from Peter. Peter says, "Hey Bard, back on episode 29, I asked you for advice about D&D Burnout. You suggested a new hobby/activity, and I wanted you to know that I took your advice, and it's going great." Oh, good. Wow. Well, look at there. "When I brought it up, the group was very supportive, and we decided to take a break for a while and play board games instead. Just wanted to say thanks and let you know you're doing excellent work with the podcast." Well, thank you, Peter. I'm glad that worked out for you. Yeah, I do remember you mentioning that you were getting some burnout. I'm really happy to hear that your group was supportive and responsive. You know, I think most people are. I think most people are just doing the best they can and are just, just trying to live their lives and be happy and not cause problems. And so we as humans can get in our own heads about worry with being judged or criticized, but most of the time people aren't even thinking about you. That's the thing. For a long time I used to get really angry at like people on the road and stuff, and I mean I still get road rage, but like I used to get really annoyed at stuff if somebody like cut me off in traffic, because I was always under the impression that they saw me and they didn't care and they cut me off on purpose. Now, that could very well be the case, but what's way more likely is that they weren't even thinking about anybody even being over there. They just moved their car. So all of that's to say, people that are worried about like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to bring it up and like cause a problem in the group. It's like most people would probably be pretty understanding. And in this example, they were. And it sounds like you've shifted into playing some board games and you're happier with your time together. So that's a good thing. My nephew has one of those Alexa music devices, been stumped 5 times for it. Oh, don't even wind me up, Cat Jazz. I was talking to that thing earlier. I said, quote, I was like, well, thanks. As usual, you played everything but what I asked for. My brain is an albatross, so I can understand how exhausting overthinking things can be. I had a little 45 of it. The Red Barton. Huh. Don't remember. There's a charity module for orcs and half-orcs, Return to Glory. It played what Bezos wanted me to hear. I don't know what it played. You know what? Because I was trying to get it to play, and I didn't realize there were so many different versions of the Sonic theme song for the show. But I was trying to play the one that's like, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive. Remember that one? Isn't that the one where Jaleel White voices Sonic? I keep telling people despite improvements, voice recognition software is still mostly bad. Yeah, probably not great. Don't ascribe to malice that which is explained by ignorance. No doubt. Yeah, most definitely. Most people, they're just not even paying attention. So if you're worried about it, just talk to people and voice what your feelings are in a healthy way. In the healthiest way you can. Game Grumps has ruined Sonic in any serious manner for me. Well, to be fair, I don't know if it was the Grumps that did it. They just brought it to light, right? All of that stuff already existed. When you're talking about like all that crazy fan fiction and stuff. And then, of course, the games themselves. It's not like they made the games. They just played them. What's up with the live-action One Piece movie? So it's not a movie. It's a show. It's coming out on Netflix in like a week, I think. And from what I understand, Oda is heavily involved. and is happy with it. They are telling the story. So I think they're just doing East Blue to start. And I mean, they might do more if it does well. I think it looks good. I think the trailer looks good. But I'm excited for it. Mostly just because, like, Oda signed off on it. So it's like, you know, I know that Netflix has a history of screwing up animes, and they know that too. So, yes, we are officially in chat, I guess. It was just a smooth transition. We just started talking about Sonic and One Piece. Be kind, everyone, to do good on someone this week. Oh, yeah, speaking of, Mike, thanks for the reminder. While we're in chat, let's talk about that. Anybody got any good things this week? My good thing this week is I got in the sample dice. So I got a chance to look over them and review them and check them out and see which ones are cool. And I also continue to make good progress on the album. Yes, I did get the invite on the Discord, and I'll look into that when we're out of here. Just the ridiculous jokes they make. The idea of Sonic. Yeah, I hear you, Egret Joe. There's a lot of them. A lot of the Sonic stuff is some of the best stuff. Finished this week's session a few hours ago. 2 of my players now have wings on races that shouldn't. Sounds about normal. Survived the storm in Ohio with no damage. That's good. Wife gave birth to a healthy boy. We'll be hopefully able to take him home soon. I'm so proud. Congratulations. Good for you. That's great. Was able to smoothly walk down the stairs for the first time in a couple of months. Oh, ACL. Oh, nightmare. Nightmare City. Good to hear that you're making some progress there. Gonna go play Cthulhu with friends tomorrow. Finally had the time to hang out and chat this weekend, and you hope you get to rest this weekend. Wow, that's very kind of you to say. And I hope you get to rest this weekend, too. I need some rest myself. Going on a vacation next week. Sweet. Found and drank a can of Red Bull. Oh, wow, Chris. Good for you. You know, that's you get the hat this week. That's fantastic. I might just start handing that out, by the way. Got to watch my Western Mustangs beat the York Yeomen at football tomorrow. I don't know what any of that means, Beam, but good for you. That's good. Good thing for this week. Made new friends on TikTok. That's cool. Cthulhu with friends. Is that a new board game? Yeah, it sounds like it could be. Welcome to Cthulhu with friends. Have you ever considered summoning the Dark Lord? That would be really funny. It was just like a 90s commercial for like Cthulhu with friends. Was able to do some great yard work. That's awesome. Childhood friend. Man, yard work is, especially lately. Childhood friend that lives 30 minutes away offered me a new job, almost double the pay, half the hours in a company truck. How the hell are you going to tell the DM you quit? Armored Core 6 came out. I don't know what that is. Nag's Head with your mom and sister's family. Super excited to get to chill with my nephew. Watching the new YouTube series called Oh, wow. Hold on. You've not seen it, Pirate? That can't be. Airships of Nuada? It's okay. There is, I will say, my favorite thing about that playthrough that we did is the Tantor episodes at the end. I think that's way cool. Because technically, I guess you could watch them in like an order if you wanted to. But well, enjoy it, Pirate. I hope you like it. Why settle for Cthulhu with friends? Why settle for a lesser evil? Yeah, see, this is what the podcast is really about. Here we are, folks. It took us 36 episodes, but really the whole plan all along, all this time, was to just like use this as a brainstorming idea room. I'm just going to like come up with ideas for merchandise, and then I'm going to make it. And then I'll just like, you know, I'll use the AI art defense, because my ideas came from an algorithm that is chat of bardadvice. Watch them in order. So much fun. Oh, well, good. I'm glad. It was an Anthem wishes it could have. It's what Anthem wishes it could have been. Oh, Armored Core. I see. Okay. Yeah, I wondered about that with Anthem. It was just kind of like, I don't know. I remember seeing it and just, it was like, Creating evil characters is more fun than creating paladins. True. All right, gang. Here we are again. Here we are again at the end of the podcast. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how this keeps coming. Is there a dodge, Peppercorn? I don't think that there is a dodge. I have them all written down somewhere. Do you have them written down, Avram, somewhere? The rest of them? That would be fantastic. Somewhere I have them written down. I don't think that dodge is one of them. Although Charger is one, I think. I think Charger Peppercorn exists. There's a Bronco. Yeah, Bronco Peppercorn. That's way cool. Yellowstone Supervolcano 2024. Gee, I hope not. All right, everybody. Well, I hope that you have a fantastic weekend and week. I can't believe we're already at the end of this thing. It goes by faster every week. Thank you all again for watching. Please don't forget to like the video. Excuse me, rate the video, rate the podcast on your respective platforms, subscribe, share, tell your friends if they're looking for a podcast. Before we go, we remind everybody we will please send questions, complaints, concerns, criticisms, bardadvice@gmail.com. If you want to get some merchandise, you can grab some over at manshorts.com. If you want to contribute to anything that I'm doing musically, notably my third album, Organized Lightning, that I'm currently developing, you can contribute to that directly via PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, all of which are Yazik, YAHZICK. I will be back here next week, same Bard time, same Bard channel, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The audio for this podcast will be available tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's it. That's all we got, folks. I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we will